Hi, everybody. It's strangely good to be in Washington. I was just talking to our fine soon-to-be senator from Texas, Louis Gohmert, twisting his arm every way I can to try to get him to run. The poll numbers and everything are all upside down, and nobody's really explaining things. And as I was sitting here with you, singing the national anthem, I look up at the Capitol, and I see the statue on the top. And the statue on the top should really remind us that history repeats itself over and over and over again. The statue on the top, that's not the way that statue was originally designed. She wasn't supposed to be wearing feathers. She was supposed to be wearing a liberty cap. And a liberty cap was a French symbol of a freed slave. Well, the guy who was casting this, who was in charge of putting this up, refused to have a liberty cap. He was not going to allow a liberty cap to be put on the head of that woman at the top of the Capitol because it sent a very big signal. He was doing this around 1850. So he actually had it to prove a point, spite, to prove the point and to live in spite. He actually had that cast by slaves in the South and replaced the liberty cap with a feather headdress. The guy who was in charge, Jefferson Davis. History repeats itself over and over and over again. And the symbols and the signs and the warning signs are everywhere. Now we're doing the same thing that we did, that France did in their revolution. The difference between the American Revolution and the French Revolution, they were both talking about equality, except the phrasing was slightly different. And it was very important. One said equality, and the other said all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So one said there's a Creator, and the individual is the most important. What France said was equality, because they had stirred the masses up to hate the rich, and the rich were doing their part to make sure everybody did hate them. But it was equality. And when you talk about equality and when you talk about fairness, it easily goes awry because it requires somebody to be in charge to say, no, things aren't equal. So I will take it from you and give it to you. And once you start doing that, you have to start hating people, pitting people against each other. But more importantly, you start to have special classes. And people who start to endear themselves to the benevolent leader, whoever it is. That's what's happening to us. We've gone from a nation of all men are created equal. Martin Luther King talked about it. He wasn't saying, I want a special class. He's saying, I just want to be treated like a human being. Just treat me like you would treat anybody else. Judge me on the content of my character, not the color of my skin. When we talked about in the election in 2008, I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't thrilled with George W. Bush. I saw a real problem in the Republican Party. And so when they started to say hope and change, the reason why that worked is because we all did want hope and change. We did want this endless war thing to stop. We're not fighting it to win. What is this? We knew the budget was out of control. We knew the writing was on the wall. If you continue down this course, it won't work. We wanted an end of special deals and special favors. If you're Halliburton or GE, it doesn't matter. How come you can go to the White House and you can have a special exemption, but I can't? That's not right. And we all knew that. And that's why hope and change worked. But now it's all coming unraveled. Because it's not it's not about messaging. It's not about packaging. It's about being authentic. It's about being real. It's about meaning what you say and say what you mean. That's the problem with our country right now is who trusts us? I mean, our own people don't trust us. How could we expect others to trust us? Because you never know. It can change overnight. Yesterday, the president offered the Republicans a deal. He said, if you just give me 8 weeks, you just kind of do this deal with me, you'll be surprised at what I'll do. And I thought to myself, I bet you will be surprised at what I'll do. You just do these things, and I'll make that deal. Well, the progressive Republicans were about to take that deal, and then the president spokesperson said, no, that deal's off the table. Well, how can you negotiate with people like that? There's no honor, there's no integrity. You never know. They're now trying to bargain in. What was the? We were just talking about. There's part of the healthcare law that's written in the healthcare law. It's already law, and the Republicans are saying, okay, but here's what we want. We want to make sure that you put this in any compromise, that we get this back on the table. Well, what are you talking about? It's already in the law. And he's violated the law by just arbitrarily saying, we're not going to do that. And so now you're asking him to put it back in the law? You can't run a country this way. You can't run a household this way. You can't run anything like that. All we're asking for, all anyone is asking for, is not equality, but equal justice under the law. The same thing that statue on the top of our Capitol is supposed to represent. It doesn't, because the liberty cap is gone. But what it was supposed to represent is everybody's the same. Everybody's free of slavery, whatever that slavery is, whether the Lord saves it through the atonement, He's freeing you of slavery. And there's no slavery here. We don't have kings. We don't have an elite. We don't have a royal court. We're all the same. Whether you're the guy who lives on the street down here, or you're the guy who lives down the street in the big white house, we're all the same. You break the law, you go to jail. I'm supposed to head over to the Value Voters Summit here. I'm supposed to give a speech, and I'm going to talk a little bit about history repeating itself and Charles Sumner. But I don't think people really understand the point that we're at right now in history. We're at an amazing point. The whole world is going to change. The system doesn't work. I mean, we learned this in 2008, and then we doubled down and made it worse. The system doesn't work the way we're doing it because we're not doing anything worldwide on principles. So the West will reset. It will. So now what happens? It's nothing to be afraid of. If we stick together, I love I think it was Ben Franklin that said, we all better hang together or we will certainly all hang separately. But if we all hang together and just be good, decent people, we win. The same thing happened with Charles Sumner. He was a senator. He was giving a speech in the well of the Senate. He was, I think, the Ted Cruz or Mike Lee or Rand Paul of his day, the most hated Whig. And he was the guy that was really kind of leading the Whig Party. And there were only 20 of them. That was it, 20. But they were tired of the lies. They knew that the Whig Party was playing around with slavery. And it was time for slavery. It was long past time for slavery to end. And there were enough people, 20, that said, you know what, I can't do this thing anymore. You know, you've lied to us over and over and over again. You're not really going to end slavery. You don't really say what you mean. It's like health care. Well, we voted against it 41 times in resolutions. Yeah, but when it actually counts, you don't. You don't mean anything. We're not stupid. And that was the same thing that was being said by the Whig Party. And so they broke apart and they said, you know, these 20 people, 20. We're going to start a new party. You can't start a third party. That's insane. You can't start a third party. Whig Party, the Democrats, and this Republican Party. These people are dangerous. They're going to destroy us. And so when Charles Sumner was on the floor of the Senate, a guy from the House of Representatives came with a big cane and beat him almost to death. Would have killed him. Nobody went to go help him. They all hated him. Beat him almost with an inch of his life. The only reason why he survived is he was able to drag himself underneath his desk. And so the guy couldn't get the cane to finish the job. It took him 2 years to heal. He never finished his speech. 2 years later, he was wildly affected by it, had a hard time speaking. But he finally came back to the Senate, and he finished his speech. They never prosecuted the guy with the cane because he was popular. He was in a special protected class. But in that time from 1853, I think, between 1853 and 1860, a party of just 20 people in a country with no real communication all of a sudden changed overnight. And in 7 years, a big, tall, skinny guy with a big, funny hat said, I agree with these guys. And we're going to end slavery. And they did. Abraham Lincoln and the Whig Party was over. They're looking at these numbers of 28% approval rating and blaming it on the shutdown. They need to look in a mirror. The reason why they have 28% approval is because nobody believes that they believe a word that they say. So today I bring you good news. This thing's over. This thing of the Republican Party wheeling and dealing, this happened to the Democrats, but the Democrats didn't care. They just let it take it. And now we have a virtual one-party system. That's why John Cornyn is actually the Senate. Harry Reid is allowing the bill to pay our death benefits for our vets. Harry Reid named it the John Cornyn bill. Since when do the Democrats give credit for something that important to a Republican? When it's a one-party system. They're gaming the system. But it's all coming undone, even with all of the money that they have spent with the youth trying to capture this magic of the Messiah. I'm surprised he's not wearing a toga and this point. His ratings are falling apart. They know. They know. Because common sense eventually kicks in. It eventually kicks in. And people are like, I really wanted to believe that, but it's not true. And I don't necessarily like the other guys, but truth is truth. And so I'm not really with any of you guys. So now what we have to be are people that show the new way, the better way, the way where we treat each other with respect, where if you are different than me somehow, that's all right. That's cool. That's all right. I love you. Let's just get along. I don't need to control your life. You don't need to control my life. Let's live like free men. Let's live like decent Americans. And that's why I love this coming out with a rake, man. I love it. That's why people are coming with the rakes and coming with the trash bags. I mean, I'd like to start with Senator Cornyn, but maybe that's just me being from Texas. But I saw there are people here from Washington State. There are people here from Utah. There's Alaska. Where else? New York. I don't know how you escape New York. Florida. This is the way to solve. There's a German television crew here, and they're worried about us paying our bills. And I said, we're honorable people. We pay our bills. We're honorable people. You don't have to worry about that. Now here's the thing. You really want to solve it? You let people solve it. You don't have the money to run the parks? That's all right. Do you know what an honor it is? What an honor it is. That's why we're all here. It's an honor. There's a guy from South Carolina. Actually, I keep saying he's from North Carolina because until South Carolina fixes its Lindsey Graham problem, I'm giving all the credit to North Carolina. There's a guy down there who drove up. He brought his rake and his lawnmower, and he's mowing the lawn around the Lincoln Memorial. And he's not doing it to be famous. He's not doing it for any reason other than it's an honor to do it. It's an honor to meet the World War II vets. There's a group from, I think it's Iowa, Free DC. They're going to be down at noon. They've just come up all the way from Iowa to speak at the Lincoln Memorial. Just because it's an honor. This is a reverent place. This is a great place. You want to solve the problems? You know, FDR used to have people go and, go collect tin, go collect metal scrap. We can do better than that. It would be great to help our country and serve our country. Ask not what our country can do for us. What do you say we ask what we can do for our country? So here's the first thing, before everybody gets their trash bags out. And by the way, I don't know, are we allowed to pick up the trash? I don't even know anymore. But there is where's the line? There's a big tape of orange back here. What FreedomWorks would like to ask you to do is, just for our scrapbooks, we'd like a big picture. If everybody will go down to that line, we just want to take a big picture. I know this is really kind of scary being in Washington, D.C. And everybody line up now, please. But if everybody will just line up there, because we just want to get a big picture of all of us with the Capitol behind us on our Keep It Green week. Thanks for coming, and God bless you.